Welcome back. Paul, Catalina, Royd, and Ogletree. And before we, get into, some...
Your Waterloo is
oh, wow.
Spewing.
That's not good. Hey, Ember, can you grab me we don't have paper towels. Can you grab me a towel here? It was frozen.
Oh.
That was what happened, and part of it defrosted very fast. So, 2 sips.
Welcome to 365 Sports,
where things happen.
Things happen.
Come, James.
Drinks explode.
It's nice to have a butler. It really is. Here, we'll put this in here so that doesn't maybe happen.
Can't wait for that to be sticky the rest of the day.
It's water. It's just seltzer water.
Oh, okay.
Just seltzer water. I'm a seltzer guy now.
Oh, are you?
I'm a fizzy water, as they call it.
Fizzy water.
in across the pond. So Florida State has got a crystal ball prediction from Steve Wiltfong and Pete Nakos on Boston College quarterback Thomas Castellanos, who was initially committed to them when he was in high school as an athlete. Gus Malzahn swooped in and offered him as a quarterback. Didn't see the field, so he transferred to Boston College, where he has had an okay career. But the 2 best moments of his entire career came in 2023 versus a juggernaut FSU team where he pushed them to the wire. And if not for a very fortunate holding call in that game, Florida State probably loses. But when you're 13-0, like, those things have happened to you during the year, no matter who you are. And then this year, when he went to Tallahassee and put it on them in a way that showed you how bad things were going to be. Because that was right after Georgia Tech, a game they lost at the buzzer. So after Georgia Tech, you're like, well, they're not as good as they were, but Georgia Tech looks better. That was in Ireland. Weird things always happen. There's no way. Then you watch the Boston College game, but oh no, Boston College is better, and this team sucks. Like, they're not good at all. Like, there's not redeeming qualities to this team, right? They don't exist in the way that we see them anymore. So did
he get hurt this year?
He got injured, and then he got replaced, and then he decided he was going to transfer, and he basically, I don't know if it was to preserve a year, but he left the team.
Okay.
Towards the end of the year.
Because I remember his 2023 season, like you were saying, where he had 2,000. I just looked it up, and I remember, man, he was like running around a lot. He had 1,000 yards rushing and 13. Like, he's I find him to be a really good player, especially for what Boston College has going on. But anyway.
Yeah. So but he's coming there. And look, he knows, like, he's familiar with that kind of offense. He's got a lot of skills. Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn both clearly liked him at a certain point. And look, they need a bridge quarterback. But basically now they're going to have to get at least 2 quarterbacks out of the portal. So I do believe there will be a competition because the guy who started the last few games this year for them, and I think Brock Glenn will eventually leave, or they need to make him leave because he's just not playing at the level where he needs to be. He needs to be at a different place. It's not about his attitude or anything, but Luke Kromenhoek, who is their quarterback and a 4-star recruit and a big-time Elite 11 guy, is also now officially in the portal. And there are rumors that he and his family, and obviously you've got to negotiate contracts. I get that. It's the modern era. But they were asking for 7 figures.
He hadn't played it down?
No, he's played. He played. He had 1 win against Charleston Southern.
Oh.
Which, honestly, is the worst football team I've ever seen in my life. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that's the worst football team I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen some at least college football teams. I've seen some high school teams that should go into modern dance. They should be like, look, football's not working out for us. I know it's a big cash cow, but these kids are destined for the ballet stage.
You boys like lacrosse.
Yeah. You know what? You have a better shot of helping a convicted felon with a Netflix series win Dancing with the Stars than you do of scoring a touchdown against other 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you have. I've seen that at a high school level. This is that on the college level.
Ooh.
Like, this was, I mean, football, I'm not sure, you know, what's the line from Tombstone? It's like, Ike, maybe poker's just not your game.
Right.
I know, let's have a spelling contest. That's how I felt watching that that team play. That's just one win. He's asking for 7 figures. Look, they're going to take care of him. He's the potential starting quarterback. But he also had to know they were going to get a transfer. This is one of those things where this business of this gets really weird. And so if anybody that's coming back on this Florida State team dares to walk to Mike Norvell, the athletic director, the Battle's End, or anyone, and says, I would like more money to stay here, my next response would be, 2-10, bro. The portal is wide open. Again, it can only get slightly worse.
You're going to Deion Sanders this team.
Here you go. Yeah, and you know what? They have to. I don't like that they have to, but they have to. They were 1-11. Colorado was, right? Now, look, they were in contention 2 years later there's one option for Mike Norvell to keep his job after next season, and that is for all of this to work and for them to reload on the portal. So anybody who wants to leave or feels like they're not being taken care of, 2-10.
But what is success defined as for y'all next year? Is it
I would say
winning?
7-5 is probably the, you know,
because
they're the baseline.
Like we've seen, unless you're like ready to go and you bring in, you know, a dozen transfers who are ready to compete right away. The thing that we've seen is that the best it feels like that you can do if you're trying to rebuild from the studs or you've torn it down to the studs is that 7-5, 8-4 threshold. To me, it feels like if you are where you say they are. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Are they in the position? They're not in the position to negotiate, but I just think that are they in the position to let talent walk?
What talent?
That's fair.
I mean, the thing I would say is like, look, you need me. Do I? Do I really? I mean, I don't really feel like I do. So
it's a weird time because we saw this with Jalen Daniels. That was the tweet that kind of went viral over this past week. Jalen Daniels renegotiates contract to stay
and that's fine.
Kansas.
Well, here's the thing. He's got skins on the wall, and he played really well down the stretch. He's got cachet.
But I'm saying that renegotiate term
that's
is
a
like
new thing.
We're in a Wild West time where it was like, what do you mean renegotiate? I thought we had a deal done in the first. Yeah, there's no longer. I'd be interested to see, and I'd like to dig down deeper on this and try to do a story on it eventually. I think are these players getting like NFL rookie contract scale sort of stuff where it's like 4-year deal with no opt-outs or whatever, and then we'll renegotiate after, or are they having to go in every single year and be like, okay, what do you want? What do you want to not leave? And I feel like that's what's happening more so than the sort of baseline 4-year deal. We're not going to renegotiate after that. So we're getting into a weird territory where, hey, I had 6 good weeks. We're going to have to renegotiate this whole thing. Mm-hmm. You're already getting paid, brother.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think it's just such a bizarre thing to me to see. Like, I know that there are some players that look, they're really good and they want those guys back for sure, and they'll get probably to keep a lot of them. You know, but if there's guys in the transfer portal that are leaving, you know, that's fine. Look, Baylor's not losing a lot of guys, but one of the guys that is in the portal is Alvin Abasale, who's that kind of surprised me because he's, you know, kind of a key part of the future, but he's already announced who he's visiting.
Did he got replaced on the offensive line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got replaced. Who did they replace him with?
Fugar. So when Fugar came in, they moved him down, and he could not get into the starting rotation.
Right.
So that's why he's going to bounce.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing.
But he's a sophomore or whatever. Like, that's key depth.
But the guys who would be in front of him at that position now are leaving.
Correct. Right.
Like, there's some guys leaving, so it would be an opportunity. But he's going to go. He's visiting Arkansas, Houston, Kansas, Minnesota. So look, if you're not guaranteed a starting site, get it and go. And that's according to his agent. And they'll have 3 agents.
Yeah, it's very. I don't know if that's like a group thing.
I mean, it's
or
a group,
what.
but like they're rep by this, and I think that's part of the agents like trying to get their name out there. So when they tell these things to, college football beat reporter or like insider types, they're like, hey, make sure that you mention that's the firm of Winter Ross and Ogletree.
Yeah, well, that's how Shams and all those Shams and all those guys, low key got all of those breaking news hits. Is that they're just on text threads with every single NBA agent. So and so's going here. They started recently putting according to CAA or whatever the management firm is.
When I was doing a podcast with Orlando Scandrick, a Cowboys podcast, we had his agent on a couple times, and he told us a couple things, and I thought this is finally going to be, I'm going to be one of those guys who's going to get to call an agent. And then the podcast ended like 6 months later, and I was like, well, that goes out the window. I thought I could have been one of those guys where it's like, hey, Paul, you should put this out on the podcast. And I would have been a news breaking guy, but
side tangent,
it's not me.
Side tangent, that seems like hell. The way that you're always on call to be, if you're that guy.
Gene Wojciechowski went back to St. Bonaventure because his life.
Yeah, and he had some health stuff that he released recently that said like, oh, things are bigger than this. But what he said, Adrian Wojciechowski, he had some health issues and he's battling those. So things became more clear to him in his life of what he needed to focus on. But it is significantly easier to be the head of a basketball program. Or the head the head of their entire athletic program?
Like he's the chief fundraiser.
Yeah, so it is significantly easier to be that at a major or a mid-major college than it is to be the guy who's like he's showering with your phone or whatever to say that so and so 10th bench player got $1 million contract. Yeah. Yeah, that seems awful to me to have 18 phones and have 18 numbers texting you and you got to verify this in real time. Otherwise, you're going to get quote unquote scooped by the next guy. That would eat away at my skull of how much how your adrenaline has to be up all the time. Oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so got it. And then people on Twitter are going to quote tweet it and be like, Shams got it first. No, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that. For what?
Yeah. Nothing.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, for I'm going to chase this down. And then the thing is Adam Schefter, he's involved. He was involved in that whole John Gruden, Bruce Allen nonsense. And I'm sure there's people, he's got friends and all that, I'm just saying, but just for me, I lost a lot of respect for him in that because, okay, are you reporting the news or are you reporting what somebody's, fed to you? Mm-hmm. You're reporting the facts as they are you reporting the facts as your friend told them?
Yeah.
Your close contact and all that. You have and it's great to have professional relationships with people and to be friendly. But what I worry about a guy like Adam Schefter is that line's been blurred enough to where are you an objective reporter enough?
Yeah.
And, I'll be honest. We have Phil Bennett on every week, and I consider him one of my great friends in the coaching business. He's a great guy. But there was a time when all that stuff was going on. He and I were not talking because I kept an objective distance because of what was going on, and we ran into each other, and it was fine. But you could tell it's do we really want to talk to each other right now?
About all this going on?
This is not going to affect us going forward. But in the next 3 months, do we really need to talk? This will be over and that we'll move on. Same thing with Smokey. And there were a couple coaches that completely iced this out and we've run into them since then. And they've been great. Look, I'll tell you, Art Briles was very rude to me several times. I've seen him after that and we cool now. Again, he didn't do anything, but I had to keep a distance because we're trying to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that journalistically, you run the risk of, like, am I totally credible? Like, I know I'm not telling you a lie, but I'm not telling you the cleanest version of the truth.
Because it's coming from one side, you know, and you have to try and get every angle of it.
Yeah, I mean,
but like if you're wanting to immediately get something out there, and we've totally gone off the rails here, but like if you want to get something immediately out there and your dude at so-and-so organization texts you and said, this is what's happening. Well, you haven't even talked to the player yet, or the player's representation, or reverse of that. You haven't talked to the GM or whatever. And it's just like, this is what's happening. You run the risk of really stepping in it.
Yeah.
And but it's all now.
Well,
I got to get this out.
Yeah, and look, social media has made it very hard to do that job.
Yeah.
And, you know, which is why, like, I didn't want to get into, like, a lot of the stuff I felt about, like, because, like, Luke Kromenhoek asking for 7 figures, it's not confirmed. It's been talked about. It's, you know, the people who have mentioned it are people I respect as reporters, but, you know, they also said, like, this is not confirmed, but this is what's going around about it. Yeah, if that's the case, then look, nobody in the Florida State team should be asking for a raise. I mean, there's not. Like, like, if you're 2-10, you know, you should be saying, like, look, I'm going to stay here, and here's why.
I'm going to take a pay cut.
No, not pay. I would say don't take a pay cut, but
I'm kidding.
You know, if you come back and here's the thing, the culture of that team is going to be built, honestly, not by the new guys who come in. It's going to be by the guys who stay and say, we're getting this right. That's where the culture of this Baylor team is built. I'll tell you right now. But Baylor, right now, they're good again. Not just because of the guys they brought in, the Ashton Hawkins of the world. They're that way because of the Josh Camerons and the Barringtons and the Matt Jones of the world that said, no, because they could have all just been like, you know, I'm just going to go somewhere else while we have I have a chance to play in a different city at the end of the year. Like that could, I mean, bare minimum, or maybe I can go get money.
Yeah.
No, they got a fair market value here at Baylor, and they decided, I'm going to make this right because this is where I want to be.
Right.
And that's a very mature thing to do. That's where your culture changes. It doesn't, you can help it from the outside. You can water the lawn from the outside, but the foundation is what you have and the people who are committed to you and your vision that were there from the jump. You know, that's how Matt Rule did it with some of the outside guys, for sure. But the guys who built the culture under Matt Rule were Petrie and Bernard and guys that the previous staff had recruited, because they came in, they bought in, and they said, yeah,
yep,
this is where we want to be.
And it was taken to the next level because they stuck around for what Aranda had to tell them too, even when they went 2-10 or whatever that first
COVID
year.
Yeah, whatever that COVID year nonsense was.